Okay, so I am going to be giving a persuasive speech today concerning a positive view of the Second Amendment, and the purpose of this is to persuade the audience concerning the Second Amendment's interpretations, specifically in regards to man's right to bear arms and whether that is actually what it means. Now, the Second Amendment clearly presents for an American's rights to bear arms. In addition, we see that situations today in the world, particularly with terrorism and all the hate in the world today, that Americans should be capable of defending themselves with firearms and the like. Now, after the most recent shooting in Orlando, which occurred yesterday, it seems rather important to establish that Americans should still be permitted to own and carry firearms, even though something as terrible as this did just happen. And I guess that's the relevance to it as well, is the fact that it is still happening today and that we do need to be able to defend ourselves. My credibility is that I am an NRA member. I own multiple firearms, and I have even trained and taught people how to use them safely, and I've never seen anything go wrong with them. In fact, I've seen them save a number of lives. So this will proceed in a few parts, primarily as addressing what does the Constitution say and what does it mean, and what about the various situations that arise in the world, and then a conclusion on what is necessary. So, first, as we've seen through American history, this is one of the most widely debated issues in America today. But it's not hostily fought. It's just people disagree on it. So the Second Amendment, as is stated in the U.S. Constitution, states a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, that's a lot, but for brevity's sake, we must establish that, according to Webster's, a militia is a group of people who are not involved in the armed forces, but are capable of using firearms and the like. Arms is referring to firearms or other various weaponry that one might use, and it's not to be infringed upon, because it's for the security of the free state. And it's that right. Now, the National Rifle Association constantly refers to this and discusses this and shows this in its various online forums and its various meetings and conferences and all these different things, and it shows that it involves the individual. And that's where the debate really comes to a head, is it an individual issue, or is it just for a particular group? Now, that has been addressed through the National Constitutional Center, excuse me. And we see time and again that while it is debated, the big issue is it for the individual or is it for a group of people within the community? But in order for the state to be free, it is necessary for each individual to have that ability. Now, what about the fact that there are these shootings and murders and such in America today, as we see with the Orlando shooting, where NBC News has been there from the beginning, and it's recorded at least 50 dead and 50 wounded, most of them in critical condition. That cannot be accounted for, because it is not the people of America's fault that one person went crazy. Now, should there be some further restrictions on who can acquire and access firearms? Absolutely. That's not the big issue at hand. The big issue is, perhaps if somebody had been carrying a gun there, this might not have happened. It might have been prevented sooner. And ultimately, the SWAT team did have to come in and shoot him down. Now, on the other side of things, we see that there's numerous instances where people have invaded homes and attempted to harm or whatever else in a person's home while the person is there. And one such instance is recorded by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, where it records that a man fended off 3 armed men with his own firearm and killed one in the process, but the men were not able to harm him or his family. So I think that ultimately guns are absolutely necessary to defend oneself and to defend one's fellow man. If it's just for yourself, it's not really, I don't think it's as crucial is the fact that we should be trying to protect each other and look out for each other and protect our freedoms as they are. And we can't do that if we live in fear of who has a gun and who doesn't. So Second Amendment certainly states that people should have the right to have a firearm. The world at hand shows that there is a necessity for us to have them because of all these things that are going on. So the Second Amendment clearly presents for America's right to bear arms. In addition, we see that situations today demand that Americans be allowed to defend themselves with arms such as firearms. And in closing, George Washington, in regards to firearms, in his second farewell address, commented that free people ought not only be armed, but disciplined, to which end a uniform and well-digested plan is requisite. And their safety and interests require that they should promote such manufactories as tend to render them independent of others for essential, particularly military supplies. So he is arguing for firearms. He's arguing for the people's right to have such, but he wants to ensure that it is disciplined and that there's a plan in line with it. So, yes, I think we should be permitted to have firearms.